Business Activities Use Training class. Please make sure that you have downloaded the handout associated to this class. Let's review a few things before we get started. We will start on page 2 of your handout. This class will review the typical use of business activities within ACCTivate. The examples provided in the class are not restricted to the only types of activities that can be tracked. On this page, you will find examples such as customer service tracking, work order and service scheduling, return merchandise, sales lead tracking, and others. There is no limit in the number of activity types you can track, as it is only limited by your need and imagination. An activity is described as something you want to record, track, collaborate with your team, and maintain a history for future reference. This module is self-configurable, so the examples we will be showing are in the ACCTivate demo company, of which you have access to, but these options are not in your practice or live company, as they will need to be set up. We offer a different training program to review business activity setup. Let's move on to page 3 to review the field definitions in the business activity window. You may open the activity window by choosing ACCTivities, business activity from the menu, or you may select the activity icon. You can use the Look For tool to open up the Find Business Activity box to find activities already in the system. You may look for a reference based on activity, description, discussion, multiple different choices. The screen works exactly like our product and customer lookup screens. You have the choice for begins with or contains. I can put in examples such as copier. I just type in the word COP or the letters COP and I'll find 2 different copier choices in here within a description. On the bottom right, we also have include. These are filters that can limit the activity lookup by a certain activity type or by a certain status. We have another business activity review screen that we'll demonstrate later in the class that will help you find activities. Let's start a new activity. We'll choose the New button, and the system will auto-number your activity. The numbering can be set up in configuration within ACCTivate. In the demo company, we have multiple choices for business activity types that we have set up for examples: customer service, purchasing, RMA, sales opportunity, and service. Let's go ahead and select customer service. When we choose customer service, you will see that we have a code drop-down next. The code drop-down will allow us to categorize within the customer service many different types within customer service, different codes. We have billing issues, we have needs information, quality, shipment issues. When we choose the RMA, we may have delivery or quality issues. If I choose a sales opportunity or sales lead, then I may have cold call, hot prospect, request for quote. You might put in trade show in this list. These are configurable to what makes sense for your company and the different things that you may need to track. The next option is resolution. The resolution box allows us to identify an outcome of how the activity was resolved. I also like to use resolution to consider statistical tracking. How many cold calls did we complete that resolved in a satisfactory? How many hot prospects did we complete that resolved in satisfactory? Other resolution examples would be to have a sale completed, invalid lead, went with competition, maybe different types of resolutions like that that might be helpful in a different way than whether or not they were satisfied or unsatisfied. This isn't resolved yet, so let's go back and set it empty. Now on the Assign To. The Assign To shows the responsibility or ownership of an activity. This can be an ACCTivate user that you've assigned it to. This does not necessarily mean this is the only person that's going to be working on this activity, but it's the person within your organization that has the primary responsibility for making sure that this activity is completed. For a sales opportunity, it would typically be the salesman. For a RMA activity, it might be somebody in the warehouse or somebody who is responsible for testing the return, making sure that they get credit. Could be somebody in the customer service department. We often have people wanting to know, can you assign an activity to multiple people within your organization? You can only assign it to one person. You can set up a department, such as this department as outsourcing, or assign it to one person within that group, and then other people within the group can access the activity. It's not limited to the only person to be able to access it. If you assign it to one person, I'll show you a little later in the class how we can assign tasks to different people within the organization. Although we might assign this to Floyd, I will show you how we can assign a task to Pamela a little later in the presentation. The status choice allows us to control where the activity is in process. I like to describe statuses as a holding pattern. If we're waiting on somebody to call us back, or we are needing somebody to mail a catalog, or something of that nature, you're going to set it to a certain status to identify to yourself and other people on your team what status the activity is in. One of the great things about business activities is the fact of the collaboration within your team. If somebody is out of the office and a sales prospect may call in or a customer may call in and wanting to know what is going on with their request, you should be able to go into the system and find out the status, find all the notes and all the information that's related to this activity, which is the request, without calling the person who's out of the office to get the information or looking for a folder or sticky notes to provide the information. Everything should be documented in this activity so that anyone can view it at any point in time. We can set this as a pending status. Let me describe another status that we offer. We offer a closed status. A closed status can be using the word closed, or in this example, we also have no opportunity as a closed status. If I have the status in a closed condition, then what happens is it will close the activity with a date, timestamp, and who closed it. It will also track how long it took to close this activity. So as you could see, if we're doing sales lead tracking, we could see the number of days from the open date to the close date as to how long it took to close this sales lead, which could be very useful information. I can reopen it and put it back to pending or put it back to callback. And those are, I consider, open statuses because we're not setting a close date and time. My closed status is doing the same thing. There is a checkbox in our configuration setup class that we will review on how to mark a particular status as one that will close an activity. For now, let's just leave this one as callback. You can set up a priority. These are common examples of priorities that we have set up. You do not have to use priority. It's completely an option. If you are in a service environment, then you might want to utilize our feature. When I say service environment, I mean you are scheduling service calls and you have contract requirements where you need to get back to a customer within a certain number of hours, then you might utilize the feature of the priority to set the due date. If I choose normal as my priority, you should see that it automatically sets a due date within 24 hours of my open date. So my open date was 1:20 at 9:23 p.m. or I'm sorry, a.m. and my due date is 1:21, 9:23 a.m., exactly 24 hours from the open date. Whereas I have a priority of urgent, and urgent is exactly 2 hours from the open date, same date but 2 hours later. This is something that you can set up in configuration if it's of interest to you. We're going to go with at our convenience for the priority, and we can set the due date to whatever we want. Let's make that due on Friday. The estimated time and estimated amount boxes work directly with our service scheduling module. The service scheduling module allows you to schedule business activities in a dispatch board environment where you're assigning activities to different people, and you can have a visual view of what is the capacity of each of the different people to take on more activities. The estimated time will be used in that module where we would estimate that this activity would take possibly 3 hours. And then we can also do an estimated budget that we proposed to the customer that it would take $1,500 to do the work. If you're not using the service scheduling module, then these are numeric boxes that you could use for anything that you want and to utilize on reports. The reference and reference to boxes are just text fields that you can use however it may see fit. We have some people who like to use the reference box for serial numbers for a part that they might be working on. If you use a reference box or a reference to, realize that you can look up an activity based on the reference field. Let's move on to page 4, where we describe more information about our business activity window. On the Discussion tab, we have 3 main boxes. We have Description, Discussion, and Resolution. The Description box is intended to be a brief explanation of the issue. Since this is a sales opportunity, let's document that we need pricing on new office. The discussion box is intended to be a full-blown discussion of the information that was requested. Okay, let me read that to you since I can't type and talk at the same time. They're planning on ordering new furniture for the entire office. The prior furniture was damaged in a plumbing incident. Would like to go with the color red. So as you can see, I'm going to put all the details of the request in this discussion box, but a brief summary in the first box here. The reason why we go with a brief summary is because we're going to see this box in other screens within the system, and so we need it to be brief and understand exactly what it is. The resolution is how it was resolved, more explanation than a simple drop-down as we have here. In this drop-down box, we are using this more for statistical tracking. Quick, exact answer as to how it was resolved. This resolution box may include a lot more information, the details of what happened. It is very useful when we're going back to a closed activity and we want to understand how something was resolved. We will not want to go through all the emails and all the notes of the activity. We can quickly look at this one screen and understand the final resolution of the activity. The related items is a very key opportunity within ACCTivate. The related items allows us to associate with other information within the database. We can associate a related item to another customer, to a customer location. So this would be a ship to location if your customer has multiple store locations and you're maybe servicing their locations or quoting different locations. You can associate it to a sales quote that's been created, a sales order, a credit memo, a product from inventory. We have inventory transactions that can be associated. We've seen where you've associated a receipt based on a container that is coming, so you can track, and that would also be purchase orders. If you want to set up a receipt ahead of time, you can do that. We've seen where you can associate it to an assembly if you're trying to schedule work orders for manufacturing purposes. Associate it to vendor for purchase negotiations if you're working on different vendors that you'd like to request a proposal from. Associate to purchase orders if you're waiting on purchase order to replace parts on this activity possibly. And other contact. This is where it is not necessarily a vendor or a customer in our company, but it's somebody that we want to document their name, phone number, company name, and address. Possibly this is an outside consultant or commonly used for sales leads. A business activity. So if I have a customer has already called in and requested information about the, let's say they had requested a service request to have something fixed in their environment, and then they call back 2 weeks later and say something is broke. The original activity is going to be closed, but you may set up a new activity to have a secondary service call, or you're going to relate it back to the original activity so that they're connected and we have all the information readily available. The next three options, Amazon, Google, and Google Search, these are examples set up in our demo company where we're connecting business activities to external links. Let me show you an example of the other contact since this is a sales lead. When I choose the other contact, I'm going to have an opportunity to enter a contact name. When I enter their name, then I will have an opportunity for a phone number and an email address. I have an address tab where I can document their address and their company name. I can add another contact. And then I can have two different contacts in here. One thing that you can do, if it's helpful to you, is you can make a note to the name, next to the name, that Bob is the department manager, and possibly John is the purchasing agent. If I hit save, then we'll see the two different names. So it's very easy to be able to see both people that are contacts. Now, maybe I might want to associate this request that they have expressed interest in a particular product, or I can just select a product. Let's say that they want a table that they want me to review. So you can add multiple related items to this activity. And at some point in time, we'll do a quote for them, and once we do a quote, then we can attach that to the activity as well. We'll go through other examples of using the related items in this class. Let's move on to the Notes tab. The Notes tab is something that you may have seen in other training sessions. It allows us to record timestamped notes in the system to document information, communication, or information needed for that's going to go in our database. We can use a note to just document something that's happened, and we can also use a note to be a follow-up and assign a task to somebody else. If I click on the Add Note button, then it's going to start the note. It's going to put who added it. So I'm logged in as SYS user on the right, so it's showing me that I'm adding this note and what date and time I'm adding it. If it's just a note, I could just type, this is just a note, whatever I want here, whatever information I want to add. If I want to add another note where I'm actually assigning a task to somebody, I can notate, please send a catalog to this customer. And this is where I can put tomorrow's date and assign that to Pamela, as I mentioned earlier. So this first one is not assigned to anybody. It's just documentation that's going into the system regarding this particular request. This is going to become a business alert for Pamela. The second one, the please send a catalog to this customer. So what happens is when Pamela logs into the system, this will go into her business alert screen. We'll just shortcut and show it there. And when she comes into her business alert screen, she will see it and know that she needs to do something. She'll double-click on it. She'll recognize information here. She will see that SYS has requested that she send a catalog. She can then complete this note, and she can add a secondary note. New catalog sent on 1/21 and hit save. Typically, if I logged in as Pamela, what you would see is Pamela's initials, PS, would happen because Pamela is the one who was logged in at that time and recorded the second note. And then she's checked off that she's completed this note. So when she's checked it off, if you hit refresh, it comes off the list. So those are examples of just a note and then notes with a follow-up that will go to your alerts window. The email tab is used to send emails. All emails will be stored on the activity for reference. This will not be in your sent box with Outlook. It will work with Outlook and Outlook Express, but it does not go in your sent box. It will remain in this activity for documentation. If the customer emails you back, the email that they send back will come into your Outlook or Outlook Express in your inbox, but then you can drag and drop that email onto this email tab so you can have the communication back into the business activity, as well as use it to respond, hit reply within the activity to send a new response back to the customer or whoever had sent it to you. So therefore, then your new response remains part of the activity. Why do we use activities to manage this email versus leaving it in our Outlook or Outlook Express? Remember how I mentioned that we have team collaboration. If you're out of the office, I can't get to your email. I can't see your email, but I can see what's in this business activity system because all of us have access to it. If I want to receive, if I want to do a new email, I'm going to be in save mode, and then I'm going to hit the email button, and it's going to start the email to Bob Smith. If I have a template, which I don't have any set up right now, I could select a template, or I could just type an email. I can attach a document if I'd like. And I can hit the send button. Before I do that, I don't want it to actually, I don't know if Bob Smith is actually at Dell.com, so I'm not going to hit send on this one. But once you've sent an email, then it will show a, let me save it and close and refresh. It will show up in this email directory with a from and a sent. The sent will be the timestamp. The from is who sent it. The sent is the timestamp of when it was sent, what date and time. If you attach a document, the document is now embedded in the ACCTivate database and will always remain here. You could delete the document wherever you have it. So it was on your desktop. You can delete it from there. If I double-click on this document, then it will open up the document into the screen so I could use it at this point in time. If I need to just attach documents, then I can do that here by the same method I've just done. I could just set up an email, hit the Add Attach File, and save this. And this is how I can add any kind of documents, any kind of specs that customers may send us to an activity. If you're going to drag and drop an email from a customer into this business activity, then make sure that you are on the Email tab, you're in the Edit mode, and then you drag and drop it from the customer onto the activity, and then hit Save. The time and material tabs are if you have the service billing and service scheduling, service billing modules. If you do not have that module, then you will not see these tabs. If you do, then we'll cover that in one-on-one training. If you have made changes to the activity and are logging your changes, you will start to see those here. So if I change the status to "will call back," then it will start to change statuses. If I change it to resolution and decisive, you'll see that here as well. Who changed it, on what date and time it was changed, what they changed. This was a status change. This is a resolution change. What it was changed from to the new condition. You can also add a note if you'd like here. We're going to move on to page 5 of our handout now. This covers the activity review list. If I click on the Review button, this will allow me to review all the activities in my screen, or that's assigned to myself, that's assigned to Floyd Harris. If I choose the Anyone option, then I can see activities assigned to everybody in our company. If I choose Judy, I can see activities assigned to her, and so on and so forth. It's going to default to Floyd Harris because that's who is assigned to the SYS user and who I'm logged in as right now. Another option is to select unassigned activities. An unassigned activity would be one that has not been assigned to a particular user. It's a default status. So in my assigned to list, unassigned is considered an assignment. I guess it's not necessarily a user, it's just been unassigned to this point. So you can include unassigned, or you can come up here and see only the unassigned activities. You can show anyone, including unassigned, to see all open activities at this point in time. You can filter activities based on a type, so I want to see only the sales opportunity activities, then it will list that. Possibly I want to see only the activities with a pending status, and it will continue to filter. So these opportunities here, these drop-downs, are going to allow you to filter based on different criteria. You have an all open activity status. It's going to show you everything that's open. Let me take this one off. And it's also going to allow you to see all closed activities. We don't have any closed activities. Let me close one so that you can see how that works. Okay, that one came off this list under All Open. If I show All Closed, it's now on that list. If I show All, then you'll see it on the list with the check mark. One of the things that you can see at the bottom of the screen is I have 12 activities meet the selection criteria. So if I wanted to do a count of based on resolution or based on how many activities do I have with a satisfactory resolution, then I can choose that, and it's now showing me 5 activities meet that criteria. So you can maybe kind of imagine how you can filter this, show all activities, all closed activities based on a particular type, based on a particular resolution, and get some of that statistical information that I've been talking about. You can use the date option to find activities based on a certain date, due on a certain date, having an appointment on a certain date, opened on a certain date, or closed on a certain date. So I can say opened after, and then if I choose that, then it's going to allow me to choose a date to find everything in that range. Maybe opened on 120 will allow me to see this activity that I've created today. Go back to any time and it'll show everything. The look for box on the left is very handy. This allows us to do a text look for of string data. It's not going to allow you to look for dates or anything that's a drop down, but anything that we've typed into the activity, anything that's considered a text box, it will allow us to look for. We can look for an activity number as well. So if I type 131, then it found this activity. It's looking for information within a string. It did not need for me to type the whole entire number for it to find it. If I type 555, then it is looking and finding this phone number, prefix 555. It's going to look at anything in the description, the contact name. I could type within somebody's name, the phone number, and then you have your reference and reference to boxes over here on the right as well that you could use to look for. When you're in the screen, you have the opportunity to organize your activities. You can group by, let's say, group by code is pretty common. Actually, let me group by type and then code. And then let me collapse all. And I can see I have, let me take out code. Okay, and collapse all. I can see I have 1 customer service, 1 purchasing, 1 RMA, 3 sales opportunities, and 6 service-related activities that meet this. If I wanted to possibly say I only want to see my service activities, then I might not need type and I might need code to group those. They're all the same code, so let's just go with status. So you're dragging and dropping different boxes up here to be able to show this list in different views to help you see the data and manage it. If needed, you can right-click and print the grid. It does print because it's trying to fit all that on one piece of paper. It will print it pretty small. So usually if you just learn how to work the screen, that should solve what you need. One other thing about this screen is you can sort it by columns. So let me get everything back on the screen again so I can have some data to show you. I can sort this by assigned to. After I've chosen assigned to, I might hold down my shift key and then sort it by code. So now it's assigned to, and within assigned to is code. If I'm really crazy, I can go ahead and sort it by due date as well, or different ways. So you could do multiple sorts within the data to easily find your information. You can, as you've seen me do, double-click, and it will create, it will find that activity, you can also hit a new activity if you'd like to create a new one from the screen. Let's move on to page 6, go through a couple different examples of using activities. My favorite example is using activities with customers. If a customer calls in, how should I utilize the activity where I am finding, creating activity for that customer or finding if they already have one? I think the program is very customer-centric, so we would allow us to start at the customer screen and move from there. Customer calls in, so let's open up the customer window, find our customer. Once we find our customer, we might check their address, confirm that we have their contact in the system, and then say, okay, well, how can I help you today? I'm calling in to find out about the shipment missing that I reported a couple days ago. I should then be able to go over to the Activities tab and find a shipment missing activity. I do not see one. I see one called Deliver and Set Up Furniture. This was that brief description that I had told you about earlier in the class, that you wanted to be able to see this very quickly. You can then determine we need to create a new activity and just choose the Create button, Business Activity. When I create a business activity from the customer window, it will already have the related item of the customer to this activity. It's customer service, pointing out that we have a shipment missing, assign it to myself. I am speaking with Sam Young at this point. Okay. Choose Add. I might select the sales order that this was sent on. And hit Save. Tell Mr. Young that I will check into this and give him a call back. And now I have an activity. If I hit the refresh button, you can see that I have 2 activities now for this customer. Both of these activities are open. When they are completed, they will check off. This is an ordered activity. Let's go ahead and mark that one as completed. Refresh that, and you'll see that the completed activities will stay at the bottom with a check mark. All open activities will filter to the top of the customer window. If I double-click on this sales order, it will open up the sales order. You'll see that I have an activity tab on the sales order screen, and I can see all related activities to the sales order. If I'm on a sales order screen, I can create a new activity from the sales order screen. I can do these same things from my product screen. All of my products have an activity. If I select the work table and go to the activity tab, you will see that I have a activity where I associated earlier of doing the new pricing on the furniture in the office. I could double click that and open that. I can also create an activity from the product screen. I could do the same thing from the sales quote screen and the credit memo screen, as well as the purchase order screen. You can have related activities to each of these different screens. Create a new activity. If I create a new activity from the purchase order, realize that the related item of that purchase order has already been connected. We hope that this class has been helpful to you and that business activities can make a difference in your company, as we have seen it in so many other companies who are using the ACCTivate software. Sometimes we find that business activities is more accomplishable if you set up a consulting session to where we can help you understand your needs and set that up. So if that's needed, please let us know how we can assist you with managing activities within your business. Thank you.